Hey guys, OG Albine here, bringing you guys our BBR Season 2 draft analysis. This is going to be our first Wi-Fi league up on the channel since the DLC dropped, so lots of new mons, lots of new movesets, a bunch of cool new toys to play with, and I think we definitely got some cool stuff to try out this season. Shout out to the BBR admin team for, giving me a shot and letting me play in this season. I'm really excited. We got some great coaches, and I'm really excited to hopefully potentially make a deep playoff run and grab us a championship. I think that we got the skill set, we got the potential team to do it. Barring some transactions that we may make going forward and all that stuff. But yeah, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into our round one. So going into the draft, we had a pretty mediocre pick round one. I believe you're like pretty mediocre spot in the draft. I believe we were chilling at like 13, 14 or something like that. And it got to my turn and there wasn't anything that I overly was like, damn, this mon shouldn't still be here. This mon's broken. I need to try this. So I kind of fell into the hype a little bit and I got new toy syndrome a little bit and I wanted to try Zarude. Now Zarude is a really cool mon. I think it's a little bit slept on, in all honesty. I think people kind of shit on this mon a little bit more than it really deserves to be, kind of talked down to, but I think it's very solid in its own. May not be a round one pick, but I think we actually support a team really well around it. I had a really cool plan in mind, so we ended up grabbing it. If you don't know what Zarude is, it's actually the mythical Pokemon that's going to be released in the upcoming movie that did get postponed due to, just real world events and stuff like that, unfortunately. But knowing Game Freak and how they do things, they actually coded it into the game, so it is able to be genned in onto your systems if you do have genning capabilities, and obviously in a Wi-Fi league you do. So we're going to be using Zarude. It is a grass dark type, again, if you haven't seen it already, because it's technically not released, so it'll be cool for us to be one of the first people to really try it out in draft setting. 105 base speed, so it has a great speed tier. Grass and Dark is a great offensive typing with that 120 attack. You're going to be throwing off big Darkest Lariats and Power Whips. It doesn't get knockoff, which is really unfortunate, but Darkest Lariat is still a very good stab. It gets access to U-turn and close combat, and, Rock Slide, a bunch of good coverage. The coverage that it needs to really thrive and succeed in this kind of meta. It also gets access to Taunt, which is really solid in its own right, being a good, stall breaker with access to stuff like Bulk Up as well, and Drain Punch for potentially breaking through those steel types and all that good stuff. I think this thing is very solid and very slept on. I don't think it's necessarily anything broken, but I'm excited to give it a shot, and hopefully we can draft around it well. Now, obviously, this thing has some pretty glaring weaknesses, one of which is going to be that big fighting weakness, and the other is obviously going to be that 4x weakness to, bug types and U-turn in general, which obviously isn't going to be a good time for us to deal with. So we're going to try and support that very well, and with my next pick, which was actually, kind of a pseudo-wheel, we were pretty close to the end, so we're going to kind of go over 2 picks at a time in between cuts. We ended up grabbing Reuniclus. Now, Reuniclus covers Zarude very well in the sense that it gives us a really solid fighting resist in that kind of sense, and it gives us really solid just bulky psychic type and really good win con in general. They break for each other very solidly. Now Reuniclus, if you don't know what it does in the draft format, it does a lot. This Pokemon is the reason that you draft your dark type. When they say you need a dark type on every team, it's because of Pokemon like Reuniclus setting up Calm Minds and Acid Armors and throwing off stored powers or even just psychic and recovering on up and walling your whole team. This is the Pokemon that does that. But even outside of just those bulky Calm Mind or bulky Double Dance sets, Reuniclus has great value. So it obviously has access to Magic Guard, which makes it to where you can't be poisoned. It means you can't be any residual damage isn't going to really work on this thing. So it's, obviously a great status absorber in that sense. But Magic Guard can also be used for Life Orb, so you can run an offensive Life Orb set under Trick Room, which is really nice. Not taking any of that Life Orb shit. Another ability this thing gets is Regenerator, so you can even go a really, nice AV regen set to be a great special sponge, be a great pivot in and out, throw off big hits with its pretty solid coverage, and, Psychic, Shadow Ball, Focus Blast hits a good majority of everything it really needs to hit, all honesty, and yeah, this thing's just really solid in its own right. I do love Reuniclus, one of my favorite monsters to use in draft. We're using in the IBA, which is a Gen 7 Wi-Fi league that we're uploading, and we got a Gen 8 here too. So I'm hoping it shows a similar success as it will there. And yeah, with that being said, let's jump on to rounds 3 and 4. So for round 3, we ended up grabbing Kingdra. I'm sure when you see Kingdra on your screen, you can kind of see where we're going with this draft. Yes, we're going for a little bit of a rain option, not full hard rain, which I don't think is very good in a draft setting because you become really very reliant on it, which obviously isn't a good time. But we do want a rain aspect, and I think Kingdra would be an absolute blast to try this gen. Now, if you haven't seen Kingdra in draft before, basically what it does is it comes in during rain, it outspeeds everything, and it kills everything. The water plus dragon typing is great offensively, and it's great defensively. Nothing really resists those dual stabs very well besides like something like Empoleon, which obviously isn't in the game, but we have great coverage for the things that might want to pivot in on us, like grass types in Ice Beam and newly acquired Hurricane, which I think is phenomenal for this thing. Being able to throw off big hurricanes, which are 100% accurate in the rain and really break through those grasses, is phenomenal for us. It also got access to Flip Turn, which is a new move this generation, which is actually just a water type momentum move, which is great. Being able to, have this thing force some switches and Flip Turn on in and out, forming a decent momentum core there with Zarude, which is also really, really solid. But it's also a useful Pokemon outside of rain. We can run Dragon Dance that's in or outside of rain, which is obviously really solid. It has the same special attack stat as it does physical, so that's obviously a very, very viable option. And then there's always good old Critdra, which is basically just Kingdra with Sniper instead of Switch Swim. You run a Scope Lens and you run Focus Energy, and you throw off big, big boosted crits because Sniper multiplies your crit damage by 1.5, which is obviously amazing. And you can throw off, big guaranteed crit Dracos and pretty much kill everything in the tier if you can set it up properly, because it also gets access to agility, so you can still boost your speed in that sense. So Kingdra is an amazing, amazing Pokemon. I really like it on rain, and obviously if we're grabbing Kingdra, we need to grab a rain setter. Now, there were two options up to this point. Both the rain setters were still there, Politoed and Pelipper, and I ended up, personally, going with Pelipper. Now, as much as I love Politoed and as much as I love the value that it offers and being a lot cheaper than Pelipper, I figured I couldn't really pass up on Pelipper because not only does it support Kingdra, it supports Zarude really, really well. Defensively, it checks the things that really give Zarude a big issue. And Bug, you obviously will resist that because you're flying type. You resist fire, and you're obviously the rain for Zarude as well. And you also are a fighting resist. So it covers it phenomenally. It gives us more momentum. It gives us, hazard removal and defog, which I think is very, very important. It gives us just a good bulky pivot to really help Zarude and Kingdra thrive. And that's kind of going to be the main goal of this team, is get those two in and have them do as much damage as humanly possible. So that's going to be our round 4 pick. Let's jump into the next round. Next up, we ended up picking up Silvally, a great just catch-all roll compression type Mon. It gives us a great speed tier in base 95 to really bridge the gap between Kingdra and Zarude, which is really nice, being able to force a lot of those Mons not to go, adamant or modest versus us and stuff like that, which is amazing, especially those base 100s, because they can, especially if they're not trying to outspeed a Kingdra that's going to be faster than them at raid anyways. So I love that speed tier. It gives me more defog. It gives me even more momentum in U-turn and parting shot, and the multi-attack buff is amazing to this thing, being able to go up to 120 base power and really actually be a giant threat offensively, opposed to just being a good bulky pivot and being a good support mod. This thing got a much better with SD now than it was before. It can boost its speed and flame charge. This thing has great utility, and like I said, the reason I really like this thing is because of roll compression. With rain, you tend to add, draft a lot of the same typings and stuff like that, which leaves holes in your team. And Silvally is the best hole patcher in the format, being able to say, oh dang, I don't have a great fairy resist this week, let me run Silvally Steel or Poison or something like that. Oh man, I don't have the greatest I don't have the greatest fighting type check in this matchup. Let me run a Silvally Psychic to really check that very well, because it can't get knocked off and stuff like that. So it has plenty of options in that sense, and like I said, it gives great speeds here, and it's a great catch-all Gloomon, which I really thought was important on a rain team where I can't necessarily, spread my team out as much as I would normally like in, a standard draft sense. But going into my pick after this, I was looking at my team, thinking, I don't really have good opposing rain threats check. Say I'm going up against another offensive water type, I don't have a lot of things that really want to switch in on that. I know Kingdra obviously 4 times resist, I know Zarude resist, and I know Pelipper resist, but none of those things want to switch in and take a Scald, which is very important to me. If I have, the ability to boost my opponent's Scalds, I want to have a switch into that without being a big fear of, having a Pokemon potentially crippled for the rest of the game. So I ended up grabbing Toxicroak. Now, not only does Toxicroak give us that water immunity and dry skin, which is obviously great on rain, but what it does is it gives us a grounded poison, which is phenomenal, especially for Zarude. It gives us a fairy killer, which is really important, because it's another type that Zarude doesn't really appreciate, and it gives us something to break bulky steals with that fighting type, which is something that Zarude doesn't appreciate as well. So this is a very good breaker for Zarude. It's a great endgame win con with plenty of priority and plenty of setup and Swords Dance, Nasty Pot, and Bulk Up. Decent-ish speed, but it's mostly going to be throwing off priority on the things that it's faster than. It's going to be, just wall breaking through the things that it's slower than. But again, plenty of priority and Bullet Punch and Vacuum Wave and Sucker Punch and all that good stuff. I really do love Toxicroak, and I think it really thrives on a rain team like this, where it can kind of be used in a more defensive pivoting role, while also being very offensive and scary and breaking for the rest of our team very, very, very well. It also breaks those really bulky grasses too that Kingdra and Zarude don't really appreciate. So I think Toxicroak really kind of patches up the things that my two biggest threats offensively up to this point don't really deal with very well, which is obviously super, super, super nice. And yeah, that's going to be round 6. Let's keep it going. Round 7, I was looking at the board and I realized, damn, I don't have a fairy type up to this point. So I was looking, and at this point, the best thing that I could really see left on the board that was cost efficient for my team and really helped out my team the best was Alcremie. Now, I actually drafted Alcremie in another league that you'll see a draft analysis going up for tomorrow. Spoilers. But it fits my team very, very well in the sense that it gives me that fairy type, so it gives me that dragon type check, which I do not have up to this point. I do not have a single resistance or immunity up to this point, besides the potential Silvally type, so I figured it'd be really nice. The only thing that really sucks about Alcremie on this team is the fact that we're not going to be able to throw out big mystical fires to hit those steals on the incoming, which is going to be very, very annoying for this. But other than that, I think it fits solidly. It gives us that fairy type that we really need. It gives us a cleric, and it gives us a potential Calm Minesweeper as well. Very solid mon. I actually really, really do enjoy Alcremie. I think it's very slept on in the draft format, so I'm hoping it does pretty well for us this season. And then round 8, I'm looking and I'm thinking, wow, another very important type that we waited way too long to go after, and there's nothing left on the board, and that's the steel typing. And looking at the steel typings left, as for things that fit my team, there weren't many besides my boy, the absolute GOAT, Togedemaru. I love me some Togepi. This thing's an absolute beast. I actually think it fits phenomenally on a rain build, giving me that electric immunity potential with the lightning rod ability, giving me an electric type of my own, which is obviously really nice, giving me more momentum, giving me that ice resist and that fairy resist, which is great. It gives me wish pass, which is obviously pretty solid in itself. And despite this thing looking like it doesn't have the greatest stat spread and greatest bulk and all that good stuff, it can definitely be tailor-made to live the hits that it really needs to. It gives me sturdy for a pinch if I really need to live a hit, retaliate with a big hit, or maybe even nuzzle something, so good speed control there. I love Togepi. I think this thing's mad slept on, and I'm really excited to use it this season and really show it stuff. My buddy Jason, or Diet Tight, he used this in APA Classic and brought it to a championship on Showdown, and it was actually the MVP in his final game, I remember, with like a Magnet Rise Toxic set. So this thing's really, really cool. I love Togepi. I think we cover his weaknesses pretty well, actually, on the rest of the squad, so I think it'll actually be a really, really solid addition to our team. And yeah, let's jump on to round 9 now. So, round 9, before we get into this pick, I feel like I should get into the story of these picks in general. So I was looking at my team and I was like realizing, damn, I don't have a ground type. I don't have a ground up to this point. So what I wanted to do with this pick is I actually wanted to pick up regular Marowak. I didn't have many very options for the ground typing, and I actually don't even have rocks up to this point. So Marowak was going to be our rocker, which obviously isn't great in itself. You don't got to tell me that. But I'd rather have the option and at least have it in the back of my opponent's mind until we can potentially make some trades with free agent moves later on. But I actually got sniped of regular Marowak. And I don't think I would ever have to say a sentence like that. But I did. I got snapped of regular freaking Marowak, which is so sad. I was originally going to go Marowak and then Cinccino in the last round. But Ruppy actually ended up picking it up, which is really, really crazy and really, really unfortunate. I don't think I've ever been more upset to be sniped by such a bad Pokemon in my life. But in my head, I'm thinking, okay, this is fine, because I know what I wanted to do. I ended up taking Cinccino just because I was running low on my Tyner. And then going into my last round, I was going to pick up just any tier 5. And then post-draft, what I was going to do is I was going to drop the tier 5, or the bottom tier Mon. I forget how many points, 60 point Mon. I was going to drop that, pick up regular Persian because it was a normal type. It fit the speed tier that I want, which I'll get into with Cinccino here in a second. And then I was going to drop Cinccino and pick up Golurk in the 80 point tier. And then I got sniped of regular freaking Persian, which is so freaking depressing. I have never been more sad in my life to get sniped of a regular Persian. Another mon you never see get drafted, but unfortunately it happened. So we end up getting kind of shafted with our last 2 picks and being put in a pretty tough spot for week 1. We do end up making some transactions, which I'll get into at the end of recording this, but we end up drafting Cinccino. Now I do think Cinccino fits this team very well. I like it a lot. It gives us a normal type, so it gives us a ghost immunity. It gives us a speed tier over 110, which I think is very important. It gives us momentum, and it gives something that baits in those steel types to really, get Toxic broken for free and all that stuff. And like I said, it gives us a great speed tier, which I really, really like for this team. And being that, giving us that normal spam option. So I think Cinccino is very, very solid in its own right. Don't get me wrong, I actually end up keeping Cinccino, so very solid mon, very solid mon. And then lastly, I ended up grabbing Dusclops. Now, like I said, this is a little bit more of a filler mon. I saw it as, just like a nice catch-all physical check. I didn't have a ghost type up to this point. There wasn't really anything else that really fit my team in that tier, in all honesty. There wasn't really anything else that I saw at the moment. So we ended up picking up Dusclops. Not my favorite mon, just because it's a bit passive, and I don't really appreciate passive Pokemon. But regardless, it does its job in the sense that it's very bulky. It can set up Trick Room for some potential, maybe some Alcremie shenanigans. I guess we have, or maybe even Reuniclus, but it can set it up for itself. So that's not even really a big calling card to it. But it's going to Will-O-Wisp. It's going to Nightshade / Seismic Toss things, Will-O-Wisp, and all that good stuff. And hopefully be a general nuisance to my opponent to give me enough time to set up and potentially win with the rest of my Pokemon and all that stuff. But, yeah, it's gonna, unfortunately, spoilers, be dropped later on. I don't know if I'm gonna go over the trades right now or if I'm gonna go over them afterwards. After my week 1 game and stuff like that, because I am using this team week 1, and I do think it's solid enough. Obviously, the two biggest downsides to it: one, I do not have a single Stealth Rocker. I do not have a single hazard on this team, which is so unbelievably bad. It's insane. So we're gonna have to definitely mend that and, pick up some different things going forward, which obviously isn't fun. And then we also do not have a ground type. And not having a ground type to absorb electric type moves and relying on Togedemaru for that is so freaking bad. It's insane. So we're going to have to be very, 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 very careful about that. But regardless, I think the team can at least scrape us by for week 1. And then we can make some transactions, go forward, and do some good things. So, yeah, that's going to be the goal. Actually, let me cut, and then I'm going to kind of go over my transactions. I'll be right back. 1 second. Alright, so as for transactions, excuse the super budget live editing where I just grabbed the sprites out of my computer and threw them on the thing. And as I move me and I go over here. Let's go over here. Cool. So as you're going to see right here, we ended up dropping, We ended up dropping Alcremie, Togedemaru, unfortunately, I love Togepi, man, and Dusclops for Doublade, Stunfisk, and Clefairy. Now, what does this offer my team? Obviously, this gives me a ground type in Stunfisk, which is phenomenal. Again, I don't want to be stacked. It also replaces that electric typing that Togedemaru is, leaving with, and it also gives me rocks. I needed rocks. I didn't have any hazards up to this point, and I still don't have the best hazard game. But regardless, I would rather have some hazards than no hazards. We ended up dropping Alcremie in order to kind of fill up that steel typing that we were missing and picking up Doublade. It also gives us a ghost type that we're missing out. Dropping Dusclops right here, giving us a good sturdy fighting type check. It's very good in the rain. Obviously not, really caring about those fire type moves as much, especially if they're physical. It's a great physical wall, which we didn't have much of up to this point. And then for Dusclops, we ended up dropping it and picking up Clefairy, which is a great, great budget pick. I absolutely love Clef. It gets rocks, it gets Wish and Teleport, which is obviously really nice, and we still get that Wish support that we're missing with Togepi, and we're getting rocks, and we're getting, obviously that fairy typing to stop, Dragon types from clicking Outrage versus us, which obviously isn't fun. Now, I know a lot of these are budget picks for their typings respectively, which are very important, but again, keep in mind we do have Silvally to always potentially come in and, be a backup, if we really need that double typing that week in order to check that scary Pokemon, we can always do so. As I'm going to move Clefairy, I'm going to make it all big so it looks like it's our last Pokemon, even though it's not right now, and we'll have a week 2. And I'm going to move me back over here because the little fuzzies are annoying me, and I'm going to move over and hide them right now because it is late and I do not have time to redo this. So that's going to be our squad for the season. Now, obviously, we're not going to have these 3 guys for week 1. I guess I can kind of hide them really quick. We'll see you guys in a week. That's me. There we go. And that's going to be our squad. Let me know what you think of it. Obviously, it has its big flaws. We're going to have to potentially try and play around that, but I think the team's going to be a lot of fun. I really do enjoy building with it. I already built for my week 1 game. God, you can tell it's late. I already built for my week 1 game and played that, so that one will be going up. It's a great game. I'm really excited to show you guys that one. And yeah, with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like. If you're new here, be sure to drop a sub. We're coming up on 300 subs soon. I'd really appreciate it if you guys help us push towards that goal, of course, if you're enjoying the content. And yeah, with that being said, I will catch you guys in the next one. Later.